All the Dangerous Things is generally a really brilliant read. This is a novel written by Stacy Willingham. It was published in 2023, and I won't give any spoilers for what happens in this. And that's because I really do recommend this. And also, I didn't predict any of the key pivotal plot points. There were a couple of things where I felt things were not going in the direction the book perhaps suggested, but I still didn't work out the whys or the hows. And I really enjoy that. I love it when we have a mystery that's not obvious. And the mystery element definitely does appeal to me. This is about a little baby who went missing a year ago, a little baby called Mason, and they have no idea what happened. And the novel primarily follows his mother, Isabel, and her pain and desperation to find out what happened. And I don't want to say too much more than that because I really don't want to give much away. But what I will say is to expect the unexpected. Isabel's not in a great place. Her husband has separated from her. This is something that we often hear when a couple loses a child in any way. It often puts such a strain on the marriage that they have to go their separate ways. And this is what's happened here. Ben, her ex-partner, is certainly an interesting character. I feel like certainly to begin with, I didn't love him because he wasn't very supportive. But at the same time, whenever he was telling Isabel to kind of let things go, I could understand where he was coming from because Isabel is really not letting herself move forward with her life. Not necessarily to move on, but to move forward. She's very much stuck in the past from over the past year. And obviously, that helps drive the narrative forward as she begins to dig deeper and deeper into what happened. And as I said, I didn't work out what had happened. And whenever I thought we were getting the answer dangled in front of us, it didn't go the way I was expecting. And I love that because everything that is revealed does make sense. So it's not one of those where the reveal is really surprising, but also when you reflect on it, it's just illogical. That can really ruin a story. But everything here makes sense. The dots all connect together really well. So I really like the narrative. I think it's a very well written story. The characters are either really likable or really well written as far as, the antagonists go. And it's certainly very, very compelling. The writing style is really pleasing, and ultimately, I have no real complaints. I have two small issues with it. The first is that quite a few of the chapters just kind of dwindle. Isabel will go off on a tangent, and then the paragraph just kind of fades into nothing, and it's not very interesting, and it seems pointless. And by the time we start the next chapter, we haven't really moved forward with the story. And this happens quite a few times, but I'd say mostly in the second half of the book. And I don't know if that's because the writer was trying to not give away too much too soon, so the pacing really slowed down as chapters stopped revealing things, which I can understand, but it doesn't make for the best reading at certain points, but not enough for me to stop enjoying it. I was still wanting to read on, still desperate to find out what was going on, but definitely there were a few times where a chapter just didn't move things forward and it didn't provide us with anything interesting. But thankfully, I would say they were mostly few and far between. The other thing is that the ending is very, 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 very rushed. We do have an epilogue, and the epilogue basically suggests that the writer didn't want to bother writing multiple chapters to give us the answers that we needed, so we just got snapshot information in an epilogue, and it's a very lazy way to end a novel, where the reader still has hunger for detailed answers. So that is something that's worth bearing in mind if you don't like books that are rushed, that are not very satisfying in the final moment. But again, it wasn't enough to affect my overall enjoyment. Just as a point of criticism, we needed a couple more chapters, a little bit more detail, because an epilogue, while it can work really well if there's enough substance in an epilogue that could serve as several chapters of really fascinating information and narrative progression, then that really should be in a chapter of its own right rather than just a wrapping up epilogue. So that's something worth bearing in mind. But other than that, really thoroughly enjoyed it. generally really like the writing style. The characters are all very well written, definitely a strong sense of suspense, and ultimately, All the Dangerous Things is one that I definitely enjoyed and absolutely recommend.